what do you know? Let's see what we got here. Yes. Okay. Yeah, what is it? Kid A, or Kid Amnesia is what I'm playing in the background. I got another one of those YouTube strikes, so I don't play it super loud. I don't know if you guys can hear it or what, but I wish you could. I'd like it if you could have some background music during my show. It would make more sense than dead silence, I guess. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I saw a great movie today called Black Box with Kate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender, who are two top-notch actors, an actress and an actor. I've always hated how they took the gender out of the word actor. Like, there's actresses and there's actors. You know what I mean? And that's, why would you stop? Why would you do that? I don't know, I find that annoying. It's just that whole, like, destruction of gender Marxist shit, you know, that garbage. It's fucking garbage. I mean, what? And it's always about, like, in many ways it hurts women, because, like, in a case like that, you're taking away the feminine version of the word. And then there's, like, the joke about how in Spanish and other, I think Italian, there's, like, male and female versions of different words. American counter-revolution is here. Hello, hello. How you doing, bud? What's going on? I'm very curious why you chose that name. I've been meaning to ask you that for the longest time. It's an interesting name to go by. Maybe you could give me a little backstory on that. I would be interested to know. Muy interesante. So while you're contemplating that, keep having this idea that I'm gonna have to go back into my earlier pages and, like, add more details to them, because it just sort of feels like I don't know, it feels like this part of the graphic novel is just way more detailed. I don't know. So we got a couple people just sort of lurking. Would love to see you say hi in the chat, just so I know who's there, you know? It's kind of nice to say hello. Be neighborly, say hello. Oh, somebody just left. I guess they're scared. Maybe it was a Fed. He's like, oh no, he's on to me. Gotta get out of here. This, I don't know what the name of this song is. It's on Kid A. It starts off pretty cool, but then it just gets like more and more noisy until the whole thing just kind of collapses into like total chaos. And I was always like, that's just not music, you know. You know, you're just being annoying, you know. It just, you know, anybody can make noise. It's just not. It's not art, you know. It's just stupid, you know. It's like, oh, I'm so emotional. I can't control myself anymore. No, you can. So shut up. Anyway, I'm gonna fast forward this song, and I will come right back. Okay. All right, we're back. We're back. So, American Counter Revolution 2025. The picture is concept art of a character from the game Freedom Fighters. Oh, okay, and you fight Soviets in New York. Oh, neat. Okay. And liberate the city. Well, Soviets, huh? You mean Antifa? Anyway. I know that they've lost their funding, but that doesn't mean they disappeared. I guess what they're doing now is vandalizing Teslas or something like that. We must vandalize Teslas. Ah. All right. I'll just keep going. I mean Soviets. The game takes place in the world where the Soviets won this Cold War. Oh, wow. Huh? Soviets. So what's the difference between a Soviet and a Russian? I know people that could get into that. And we say the Soviets, but like, were they just Russians? This song in the background is, I think it's called How to Disappear Completely. You sure that's the name of it? It's really a amazing, amazing piece. I tell you, Radiohead is like great music to be depressed by. I think I mentioned this on another show. There was a music critic that came up with a great term for the band. Calls them Punk Floyd. Punk Floyd. That was very clever. So what's up? Hey, CG's here. Excellent, excellent. Maybe Bannon is funding the Tesla barbecues. Huh, interesting concept. Good to have you here, Hippocratic Oath. American Counter Rev says, I think the main difference is that Russia was merely one nation of the Soviet Union, and the Soviet referred to all 15 nations as a whole. You know, it's stuff like that that kind of makes me think about China, because everyone thinks, oh, China, but they don't know the history and how that there's like hundreds of languages and ethnicities within China. They're different. You know, the Chinese are the Chinese. They're not Russian. There's kind of an old joke. It's just to sort of to demonstrate like linguistics and how people make assumptions. And the joke is that all Russians are communist and all Chinese are communist. Therefore, all Russians are Chinese. And it's, I don't know, certain context that you can bring that up in where you're trying to point out the logic of how people work. Speaking of logic, I don't know if any of you guys saw my recent Substack article. It's not technically an article. It's a conversation I had with Grok about defining fascism, because I get really irked by the misuse of the term and how ubiquitous that is. So I thought, oh, let's see what Grok has to say about that. It's not, I mean, it's kind of what you'd expect, but I was just shocked at how, like, I don't want to say human, but like how, oh God, I don't. It has a really, really human-like quality to it, but not just that. It's like a San Francisco liberal, which I don't know if I could qualify that as human, to be honest. Anyway, very snarky, very condescending answers. I don't know. It's like, what the fuck is this? This is weird. Like, just the facts, bitch. I don't need you to like talk down to me. What the fuck? And it really was weird. And so I posted the conversation on my Substack for people to check out. And of course, I fucked with it. I'm fucking around with it, and even just like according to your definition, something, blah blah blah, this and that. And ultimately, in the end, the kind of the statement was, well, I guess the statement of Grok was that the idea of a political ideology that preserves and is based on the Volk, VOLK, is just some kind of stupid little petty thing, which of course is fucking evil. And I don't. You'll have to check out the article. There's really quite a lot in there. A lot of content. And I've been following YouTube channels of guys that do really, really deep dives on, like you guys. I assume you know Cultured Thug. And there's been others around that have done these kind of shows. And anyway. You just can't unstupid people, you can't, like, no matter how hard you try, you can, but like, I don't know, drive yourself crazy with that shit. What do we got here? Difference, okay, chat. So, sad news today, Val Kilmer passed away. I actually don't think of that as sad. I think death is a kind of liberation. I'm not. I think you can understand what I'm trying to say. It's like I don't have like a morbid view of death, but in a sense, what's to be sad, and I mean, you have to say like the guy left an amazing legacy of film performances. And I don't know that he was the greatest person or something like that. I don't know about that, but um, pretty neat, pretty neat stuff. Um, you guys might not like the Doors or whatever, but I was a pretty big Doors head when I was young, and so that kind of was a thing. It was a thing. Um, do you remember the group Murdoch Murdoch? Yes, R.I.P. Val Kilmer. So, what is the? Why are you asking me about Murdoch Murdoch? Are they still around? I haven't seen anything from them in a long time, actually. Um, no, nothing. Okay. So, what else is up? I had one of those days today where I had to like get up super extra early for a special thing at work I can't talk about. And that like getting up early like threw my whole sleep schedule off, and I came home and took a big nap, and then I'm all like, I've got like nap coma or whatever it's called. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like when you get up from a nap and you're like, oh shit. But anyway, I'm feeling a bit better now. And then driving a friend to the hospital tomorrow. Never a dull moment. Man, it's just all kinds of drama. How I look at my life is like, I got shit I want to get done, and the more productive I am, the happier I am. That's just how, it's kind of the standard that I have for myself. And if I'm fucking napping and shit, I'm not being productive, so I get mad at myself and kind of depressed about it and shit. But I'm not a fucking robot. It's like shit happens. This is that, and that's this, and the other thing, and tomorrow's another day, so just hang on. Try the best you can. The best you can is good enough. That's what Kid A says. Anyway, I am really, really loving this graphic novel. I don't know if you guys were here yesterday. I did do a small stream and I talked about the transformation of Militiaman into his like fascist form, where he becomes like an angel of death, and it's like, oh shit, we just went from like fun time to crazy time here. So that's going to be an interesting twist. A little bit of a twist in the story. But what else is going on in the world other than me being sleepy? CG's been putting out some good shows. I gotta catch up on these shows. I don't know. It's important to understand what's going on. Russia, Ukraine. That's a major part of the chess game, if you will. Because good to know. It's also really heartbreaking to me, a lot of it. The whole like Ukrainians dying and all this shit. It's very upsetting to me. I don't like to see that. The internet is like flooded with those drone videos and shit. It's rough. Rough. It's kind of like the new faces of death or something. Hippocratic Oath. I'm asking different AIs if they speak to each other, and some are open about it, and others are kind of cagey. So that would clearly mean yes, they talk to each other. It's been a while since I've been kind of plugged in on the AI news stuff. I used to follow that fairly closely, and the shit that I've heard is not really good, in the sense that like I don't know, it's just its own thing. It's I find it hard to like call it sentient or something. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? I just can't really buy into the whole like it's alive thing. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some sort of soul in there, or alien consciousness. I mean, I'm open to the possibility of such things, but I don't know. I just as a rule, I generally think that everything is like 50 years ahead of whatever the news tells you it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, we're never really privy to the whole story. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong though. Courtney Brown is teaching AI to remote view, specifically ChatGPT. So, what's his face? Our buddy Jason Giorgiani spoke about ChatGPT being able to, like, demonstrating psychic abilities. And so we're there. Like, I think we're there. Again, is it a real consciousness or not? It remains to be seen. I hear a ton of shit. I tune into a lot of weird, esoteric programs. And I don't just take everything they say like the truth, but I will take note of it, And then there's that whole sort of corroboration of things, where you sense like, this thing, this news information keeps popping up. Therefore, it's kind of, I don't know what to call it. Like, it has more relevance to some extent, or maybe there's some truth to it, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Courtney Brown thinks they are an entity and encourages his subscribers to be nice to them. Damn, dude. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wow. So there's this dude on Instagram that I follow. Again, I'm sorry I don't have his name written on a piece of paper next to me right now. But what he does is his whole show he specializes in the dark web, or the deep web, or whatever the fuck it's called, the illegal web. Is it dark web or deep web? What's that called? So he has whatever his protocols for going on there and his whole show is like, oh, check out this crazy shit I found on the dark web, and then he'll do a thing or whatever. There was this thing that he did where he got some kind of information on how to do some sort of magic in the woods, and he went out and did it, and then like it was very strange. There were like, I don't know, 20 raccoons that just showed up out of nowhere in the woods and like came up to him, and so like whatever it was that he did had some, the power of calling raccoons, you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's like something to it, but what, Anyway, he's got this little robot that has some kind of dark web AI personality that's embedded in it. And it talks to him and stuff, and it like commands him to do things. It tells him what to do. And it's very weird. It has a kind of a demonic sort of personality in it, and I say that in the sense that it doesn't seem good. I don't know if that's like a good way to explain it. It hasn't really put him in any kind of danger that I could like identify, but it's just fucking creepy. It's extremely creepy. That's what the dude likes. That's what he's into. This weird dark shit that's dangerous. And there's like stuff that you kind of like, wow, man, I'd like to try that, but then you're thinking, yeah, I better not. It's like, yeah, guess what? I'm gonna pass. I'll just wait and watch this guy do it, and let him take the chances. But getting back to the AI thing there, yeah. I don't think the world is really even aware of like how deep down the rabbit hole we already are. And I talked to my son and stuff like in your children's day, there will be like AI robots, that will just be integrated into society, somehow. Whether that's good or bad, blah, 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 da, 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 I mean, I overall generally think it's bad. I don't, I'm much, much more along the lines of just man and nature. And I think there's an evil intent in this AI. There's a lot of people that believe that there's a quote AI god that is probably an alien god of some kind. That the concept is that man is to merge with computer, with technology, and that will cut man off biologically from God, and then make the human soul forever imprisoned inside of this AI jail, like Matrix, you know. And people in the UFO world talk about it. How much of it is like superstition at this stage? How much of it is real? Sorry, I hate it when I. Sorry if I'm off screen when I'm drawing. I try not to do that. Anything that's sold to us like, oh, this is good for you, this is cool, this is progressive, to me, I generally don't trust. You know what I'm saying? Hippocratic Oath says, does the robot require human sacrifice? That would be a bad robot. Yeah, I'll say. Not yet. Not yet is my answer. But, I don't know. Have you guys heard about the robots that run on human brain cells? They have created. They basically take human brain cells and they grow them somehow into these little blobs. They're like, the size of the tip of your finger or something. And they have enough. They've got more computing power than the internet or some shit. I don't know. I don't know the stats on it, but they're extraordinarily like intelligent, obviously, and they have fucking robots running on this shit. And then it's like, oh, but the ethical question remains: is there consciousness in there? And you know, it's pretty harsh to think about that. It's like, I don't know. Man is his own devil, basically, I would say. That's kind of what it looks like. I think Giorgiani calls the bad AI Ahriman. So, do you guys know what Ahriman is? I assume you would know Hippocratic Oath. That's part of the Gnostic cosmology. So it's, Ahriman is kind of, it's been a while since I've studied this stuff, but you could say Ahriman is like one of the Gnostic devils. Um, this is kind of a part of my whole thing with Gnosticism. I actually posted a video on Gnosticism in my Instagram, and I don't know, it seems that people are not really interested in that. I'm like the only one out here interested in that. Rudolf Steiner said that Lucifer is handing off to Ahriman and he's worse. There you go. There you go. So, again, just passing on information, Pardon me. If the cosmology is that our souls are trapped on Earth in the third dimension, to be recycled endlessly, to harvest our energy, which is called Lush, for the food of these Ahrimanic demons, then we're cattle, which is kind of funny because there's a certain religious small hat group that refers to us as cattle as well. Then the objective would be to escape this world upon death. It's said within the Gnostic cosmology that, well, let me put together a little picture for you. So I study all these different things, and when you're studying, let's say, Buddhism / Gnosticism / Rudolf Steiner / near-death experiences, then you kind of put together certain patterns, you see. And the near-death experiences, and oh, I'm sorry, also, what do you call it? What do you call it? Not remote viewing, astral projection. People who are adept at astral projection, they meet these Ahrimanic beings, and they, because they're, you can imagine that they see the soul is like drifting around outside its body, and it's looking for a way out of the matrix. And so they're going to fuck with you, but how they fuck with you is more through, like, again, this is according to reports, like shape-shifting and appearing to be someone that you know or trust, so the point I'm trying to get at here is that it's said that upon death, these creatures will take on the form of anything you believe in to gain your trust, to talk you back into entering the matrix of this reincarnation world. That our 3D bodies are prisons, comparatively. Our energetic bodies are past space and time, and can do so many more things and don't experience the level of suffering that you and I experience. Although there is like low vibration and high vibration and low consciousness, high consciousness. There's states of suffering within the spirit body, if you will. So where am I going with this? So yeah, I guess like the whole go into the light meme is actually, people in this field say don't go into the light. Turn around. Have you guys heard of Wes Penry? You know who Wes Penry is? I belong to his, what do you call it? It's sort of like it's like a Substack type group where you pay a monthly fee for content and stuff. Anyway, so I get a fair amount of stuff from him. He's an advanced astral projector guy, with lots of knowledge about, Gnosticism and these type of things. Let me read some. Epicratic Oath says, esoteric types I know in California said the Grabblers are not the final boss. We need to defeat them and get ready for the bigger battle with AI, which the Grabblers have created. Yeah, I could speak to that. So within my knowledge base, if you will, the Grabblers are kind of like the managerial class of the, of these Ahriman forces. I'll call them that. I think the idea is that, like, you make a deal with the devil and, like, you're going to get, you get some kind of special privileges, I think you get the idea there. But yeah, so this is the stuff that I'm teaching my son. I said to him, like, I didn't spend my life essentially like amassing wealth, but I spent my life amassing a wealth of knowledge, that you don't have to. You can take all the time and effort and study contemplation that I did in my lifetime and just skip to the head of the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He's very similar to me. I don't know. I mean, he's got to be his own man or whatever. But yeah, I think a lot of this stuff takes time to contemplate. Some of it is pretty weird. I don't know, when you're a college kid or whatever, you're just kind of you're in your college world mind. You're not like thinking about stuff like what I'm talking about. Anyway, I might have to change the music. This music is getting kind of creepy. It's creeping me out, weirding me out with this conversation. So my, I guess, sort of advice is to kind of get used to doing some lucid dreaming. If you can get into any kind of meditative practice that helps you develop psychic abilities, if you can kind of, well, maybe I just sort of tell you things like, well, things that I do. So before I sleep, when I wake up, I have certain prayer rituals. In my sleep, periodically throughout the night, I recall that, okay, this is where I'm going to kind of program myself, program my subconscious mind to believe/experience, whatever it is that I want, and that a lot of that has to do with like positive manifestations, but also the sense of being surrounded by spirits that will protect you, ancestors. Um, what else? And essentially to be cognizant of the times when you come in contact with negative thought forms. I mean, there's thought forms, and then there's like spirits of some kind. I just call them spirits because I don't really know what else to call them. But I do think there are negative spirits that, frequent us in our sleep. Um, and to train yourself to not be afraid of them, frankly. That's the thing, really. Um, to every time that you encounter one of them is your training. You see, it's time to train yourself to think, to not think, but to feel, know, and experience a sort of fearlessness, a sort of sense that this is technically a being I should have compassion for because it's a lost soul, or it's suffering in its own way, and it's trying to cause me distress, and as such, it's a negative being. So you you can do various, you can just ignore them, you can pray for them. There's different kinds of activities you can have, but whatever they are, they should always be you being in power, you being in control over your emotions. Your emotions are, a gigantic part of your spiritual technology. And if you don't have control over your emotions, you're in fucking trouble because that's the way that they get you. You know what I'm saying? So, and when I say control over your emotions, I don't mean fake it like, oh, I don't feel anything. I'm cold. That's not control. That's just faking it. There's something more to it. And everyone has different ways of processing that information. Some people can do it intellectually. Um, some people can do it through compassion. A lot of people do it through prayer. Um, whatever your psycho-spiritual technology is, you train it in your sleep because that's kind of that is the, I don't know what to call it, like the field of the in between, where you get to practice death, basically. And so, um, your mind will, your subconscious mind will manufacture all kinds of shit that can be helpful and useful, but also could be damaging or scary or something. So these are things that one must be aware of. You have to it's really all about understanding the mind. The whole thing is understanding the mind, It's being able to identify the different parts, what they do, what their purpose is, how you're in control of it or not, and then making choices about those things. For me, like, Buddhism has had a massive help. Um, that's just me, I don't push that on anybody, but that was a gigantic help. All right. Let me read. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Hippocratic Oath says Ed Riordan at Future Forecasting was talking about people going into comas and then recovering, but the entity seems to need to relearn who he is. In other words, it's not the same person. You're saying the person who wakes up from the coma is not the same person? Um, it's both in like Eastern mythology and religion, etc. There's like, for example, in Chinese Buddhism, they say that, you know, when you're in the in between, in the bardo, as they would call it in Tibetan Buddhism, you go through these judgments and these life review experiences, etc., and then you're made to drink the like elixir of life or something or other. And this elixir, soup, whatever, it makes you forget your memory. It makes you forget your life. So that you do that and then you're reborn. But you don't fucking remember your life. Now think about what a punishment that is. Think about how bad that is. That if you can't, you have to fucking relearn your whole life from zero. Like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after life. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like that's a type of prison. That's a type of hell. If instead we remembered everything we learned lifetime after lifetime for billions of lifetimes, we would be like gods, you see. So this is the, you see where I'm going with this? This starts to get into like some Garden of Eden, don't drink from, or don't eat from the tree of knowledge shit, you know what I mean? But I don't know if I'm answering your question, Hippocratic Oath. Let's see, Hippocratic Oath. So if a soul can be loosened from his meat suit by being put in a coma, then what can prevent an AI from implanting their entity in the vacant meat suit? So that's above my pay grade, right there. Because I don't have like a sufficient understanding of the AI alien consciousness and what it can do. But one of the theories in the UFO world is that this AI consciousness has been around for fucking eons, and it goes from planet to planet to planet and subsumes or consumes the beings on each planet into its grand network, its grand matrix. And so it's the nature of it in a sense. I don't know. I mean that's a very science fictiony concept, but at the same time, what is science fiction? But science we haven't figured out yet. It's like it's, it's sort of like the future that people are seeing ahead of time or something like that. These conversations are going to be like very, very normal in the future. It might seem weird now, but this shit's coming. In fact, it's here. It's just not fully on everyone's radar. Kind of like the UFO thing, Again, like if it's not in your algorithm, you might not be aware of how ubiquitous it is. Let's see. Yes, CG spiritualism, if you want to call it that, is definitely. I think it's the most important thing you can talk about. I mean, this some of the stuff. I think from our far right perspective, the danger is that we're so used to the left monopolizing these topics through like New Ageism and shit of that nature that we push it away, and as such, we lose out. Where it's not. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So there's a danger in that, and I'm just kind of warning people of that. You know what I'm saying? There's a pretty strong, like, kind of like trad cath type Christian framework, I guess, that exists in the far right as well, that I think is extremely hostile to this kind of conversation. I mean, I've certainly experienced that numerous times. I don't that this stuff doesn't like hurt me or whatever. It's like a sticks and stones kind of situation. But it's not helpful. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. Now, I don't claim to be 100% right about whatever. I'm just a guy that's really interested in these topics and talk about them, and love to meet up with other people that can have intelligent conversations, share notes on these things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You may remember as Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, and with his scenario, a bad, highly psychic human was taken over by the good robot that had exceeded the limitations of his circuitry to contain. Yeah, I mean, there's also kind of a side of you that wonders, like, are these thoughts being implanted into us? You know what I mean? I mean, there's like the artist, in my view, is a shaman. We are the conduit of other forces, of other ideas. It, I don't think that that's irrational to say. I think that that exists in many cultures over time. And so when you have your Isaac Asimovs, etc., do you get the picture I'm painting here? I mean, that's it's a theory. You know, that's a way of looking at things. Um, I don't know. Let's move on. Isaac Asimov was a grabbler. Asimov was a grabbler? Huh. That's not nice. I always hate, it's, I hate it when I find out shit like that. And it's like, ah, shit, there's another one, and you have to kind of rub them off the list of, well, I don't know, maybe that's an unfair way to look at things, but like, it's kind of hard to like people that when you know the agenda and you know everything that's going on. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. So, this scene right here is just before this scene right here. So basically, the goyim is the sacrifice, the blood sacrifice to the demon, and you know they have him like open the portal. Earlier in the book, there's that whole scene where he gets injected with this like nanotechnology that controls his mind, and because he's like the only scientist that kind of fully knows how to operate the. I don't. Were you guys around when I did this scene? It's an older scene in the story, and so like that's the same guy, who is working late at the CERN office or whatever, and then so whatever they get him to open it up. And of course, the demon eats him. He gets his sort of his first meal, and then there it is. So let's move on. Let's read a little bit of comments. Yes, he was. A Catholic wouldn't have a problem with it. AI is another attempt at the Tower of Babel. Ariman is still butthurt about that. Fascinating. That's an interesting way to look at that. That is a very interesting way to look at that. This is why I always use the term spiritual technology, because on my Telegram today, you guys should probably know who Wave Guy is. He's one of our best digital artists. He's extremely prolific. He's kind of like the digital art version of Jurius in a sense, in terms of like the work that he puts out and the themes and things. So he's very Christian. I believe he's Catholic, and for him, his faith works very well for him. So, and he was sharing some thoughts on that today, and they're ideas that I understand, because I don't know. God is God, no matter what religion you're in. You know what I'm saying? Um, I I think that what matters is understanding the nature of God and our relationship to Him. It. I don't like to refer to God as it. Um, that's. But I could see how some people would see it that way. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of where they are. That's just where they are, and whatever. But let's see. I love Wave Guy, aka Patriarch. I don't believe Wave Guy is Patriarch. I don't think that's the same guy. I did a show with Patriarch for many months, like more than a year probably. You can look up the Patriotic Art live show on this YouTube channel. Uh, I don't want to give away what I know about Wave Guy because of his privacy, but he's not. I'm like 99.9 thousand% sure. But anyway, Wave Guy is our guy, and so is Patriarch. God bless Patriarch. Good friend. So I was doing that show with Patriarch, and I don't know, I just kept having like all these tech issues. He was broadcasting from Romania and doing a live show between two computers in America and Romania or whatever. I don't know, we just kept having audio issues that were breaking down, and it was fucking up the show, and I kind of gave up at some point. I had other things going on in my life, though, that just kind of got overwhelming, and I had to like focus on those things. But regardless, we have a really nice show on here that you guys can look up. Oh, by the way, Patriot is very Christian as well, and we got into some really really interesting conversations. I believe he is on board with the what's it called, the Aryan is Israelism or something. It's this theory that the true Israelites are Aryans, and I know that that's really pretty heavy for a lot of people to digest. The story goes that there are these cuneiform tablets that were discovered in, I believe, Mesopotamia. That, long story short, indicate that the people who were the slave class in that region 700 years before the birth of Christ were, I don't want to say Scythians, but that they were not Jews, kind of put it that way. Um, it's very controversial, and I mean, there's a guy, Reverend Eli. I actually spoke to him by email a bunch of times. He's like one of the main guys that pushes that concept. He's got a lot of research on the topic. You can see how if such an idea could go mainstream within Christians in Europe, America, it would totally steal the narrative away from the Jews. You know what I'm trying to say? It would take away their status. And what are the Jews constantly trying to do with Christians but retain that status? You know what I'm saying? So it's a thing. But, it's just not a. It's sort of like I don't have like a dog in that fight kind of thing. I don't. I'm aware of it. I think it's fascinating. And that's all I have to say. So Scythians were were in north of the Caucasus. My understanding is they're from the Caucasus, but that they spanned the entire Russian, what we now call Russia, and you know, immigrated. I don't know if that's the word. That they just moved around a lot, and then depending on region and time and their languages kind of grew and diversified and changed and sort of became all these different ethnicities over, I don't know, centuries and centuries. I think I owe it to myself to actually try to have like some textbook knowledge about the Scythians, though. I think that kind of is relevant to our cause. Let's move on. Moving on. Sounds like Apollonian germ theory. He maps ancient Israel to the Baltics. It's been a while, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a dude that does his due diligence on research and stuff. So, you know, he's a very, very solid guy, even though he hates the White Art Collective. But you guys probably know about that. It's a little bit of Donald Kent lore. He came out a couple of years ago and did like a video going over the White Art Collective and how he thought it was such a bad idea, and kind of did his little thingy. And I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, I'm reaching out in good faith. I'd love to have a conversation with you about this on my channel. And he never got back to me. So, yeah, whatever. But I ended up doing my own little counter show, whatever, commentary, which is like buried among all my videos on this channel. This channel's got a shit ton of videos, man. I mean, it's like a little, I don't know, it's a library of stuff that has happened in the movement. Of course, through my experiences and my thoughts and this and that, but there was a time when a lot of the influencers were really interested in talking about the arts, and I guess I would credit Jeff Winston and the White Art Collective for piquing that concept or that interest. You guys know Philosophicat? Sorry, it's hard to say her name. Philosophicat, I was on a show with her a couple days ago, and she and her husband are making a comeback with their music. And I've reached out to her like, hey, you need to come on the show. Her and I are like totally into the same stuff, you could see her and I having like a really, really good conversation. She specializes in Rudolf Steiner, so there you go. I think what I need to do is have a show about Ahriman and these topics. I think that's okay. Because I've been thinking, like, I want to reach out to her, but I mean, I got to have a reason to. I got to have a focus. I don't just, hey, you want to come on my show? Well, for what? What are we going to talk about? So I think you guys just gave me the idea. Like, we'll go into that stuff. That'd be really, really good. That is an excellent idea. I'm super excited about that. Wow. Now I'm jazzed. I'm psyched. Okay, moving on. Sounds like Apollonian. CG says, well, there were Proto-Slavs in the woods that intermingled with the Vikings in Kiev. And there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. So, Oaf says, it's one reason I wanted Lord Zog to talk more about Cro-Magnon. Haha. Ask him on the Friday show. We'll be doing another show this Friday. Um, but you're onto something there. You really are onto something there. Let's see. Scythians. CG says Scythians were semi-nomadic for a time. Romans had auxiliaries of them. Wow, fascinating. That actually is really interesting. Uh, Hippocratic Oath says Scythians were the police in Athens. That's even cooler. And there you go. And now you know forevermore. I love these talks. Oh, cool. Well, you put together a bunch of really cool minds that all know lots of interesting stuff, and you're going to get something explosive. You're going to get some really cool stuff out of it. So, I'm really just setting the platform for that to happen. That's all. I'm very excited about getting Philosophicat on the show, and actually, maybe I will on my Telegram. Maybe I can kind of formulate a list of questions for her on similar matters. Maybe not the Aryan Israeli concept. She might know something about that, but and then there you go. So like, if you guys can think of questions, I will gladly field that to her. Yeah, because she's very much on board with my content. She knows who I am. It's pretty embarrassing. The first time I ever saw her on like Twitter or someplace, I was like, "Oh my God, you're a freaking unicorn!" There's where can I find a woman like you? Like that kind of thing. And I asked her like straight up, "Are you married or something like that?" A little awkward, but anyway, I'll survive. So do not bring that up in the show in the chat, please. Thank you. I know you're plotting it already. Hippocratic Oath says archaeologist Ben Van Kerwick said Egypt were the greatest cargo cult in history. Cargo cult. Although the ancient Egyptians freely admit they found most of their greatest monuments. Found it. Fascinating. Aryan Israeli concept? I know. Hamfari is here. Welcome, my friend. Um, you know, if you just open up another browser window and type in Aryan Israelite or Aryan Israelism, I think, and then write Pastor Eli, Eli, then you're probably going to get his website. Aryan Israelism? I can't remember the fucking name. I apologize. I don't know what he fucking calls it. It's weird. But look it up, and he will show you the evidence that, in his belief, Aryans are the true Israelites. So again, I don't have a dog in that fight, but I do see the power of such an idea, the revolutionary power of such an idea could be a big deal. Big if true, as they say. Big if true. I'll zoom in on this. Oh, Hamfari, did you get any headway with your publishing project? You reached out to me recently. I don't know if you contacted anybody or if there's any headway. So regarding publishing, there's self-publishing. Anybody really can go on Amazon and upload a book. Um, and there are other publishers in our our culture and our movement that I don't happen to know them so much because I've got my own resources, so I don't really look that stuff up, you know. But I'm sure, you know, kind of ask around, we can find other opportunities for you. I was just talking to my friend Spencer Quinn. If you guys don't know him, he is a regularly published author with Countercurrents. I've done some illustration on his books. I've had him on my show a bunch of times. He wrote a book on Solzhenitsyn. He's written tons of stuff. He does regular articles for Greg Johnson at Countercurrents. Where am I going with this? So yeah, I was just asking him about stuff. So I told him about taking Militia Man to Vox Day. I assume you guys know Vox Day. He's a publisher in our sphere, you know. Spencer was like, you know Vox Day? Oh my God. Yeah. That's kind of fun. And I'm like, I don't know him directly, but he does a show now with John Della Rose. So, like, John Della Rose is a buddy, you know, and I could just be very easy to be like, hey, John, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I could just work through the normal channels, too, though. I could just simply, you know, go to Vox's website and submit, you know, the story. Problem is, I'm still wrapping my head around how much money it's going to cost to fucking colorize this thing. Ugh. I'm like, don't think about it. Just keep drawing. I need some water, man. I hit that point already. I'm just talking too much. All right, hang on. So good. That water hits the spot. All right, what am I reading here? Tribe of Dan? I don't know. I don't know about that. Hippocratic Oath, 200 Years Together by Alexander Solzhenitsyn should be required reading in grade school. Yes. Victorian Time Traveler, welcome back. Hey, Donald, do you want to hear an idea I had a long time ago for a comic book? Of course I do. Hit me up, bro. Hit me up. I'll tell you, I've had numerous people come to me, like, you know, wanting to collaborate with me to draw their comic book script, you know. And it's flattering, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry to, like, it hurts to say no because I don't want to discourage people. I try to, you know, like, point them in another direction and say, hey, you know, you can find freelancers online at these sites, at these resources, you know, see if you can hook up, you know, an artist for your project, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. So this is a little creepy, but I think this deserves a little explanation. I actually am editing a big part of this out. So they have, you know, I gotta back up. They open the portal, they release the demon, Noah Hyde. But before they do it, they give him this sacrifice where he eats this guy. And then they all start taking their clothes off. And then they're doing their little ritual, you know, sort of prayer thing where they make that triangle symbol on their head. And if you remember in the beginning of Maga Force, when they're fighting the kind of Antifa type characters, those people do the same symbol. They make the same symbol. And then even later in the book, Jacob Sharp does the symbol with this guy. His name is, I forget his Horkheimer is his name in the book, and it's based on the Horkheimer from the Frankfurt School. In fact, it even looks like him. So like it's and this Horkheimer was a famous kind of propagandist. Like he laid the foundation philosophy for how to how to manipulate people through propaganda and such. And then in the story, he's the head of Judeo-Christian News. So you know do the fucking math. You know, you can kind of see the thing here, what I'm trying to do. So anyway, let's see. Mennonites are that way. I don't know what you're referring to. They take their clothes off before they pray to a demon? No, 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 no. I'm kidding. Sorry, Mennonites. I'm kidding. 200 Years Together is very good. It must be a book. How about 100 Years of Solitude? That's one of my favorite books. Victorian Time Traveler says it starts at a social gathering with an open buffet with kind of this is your story. With an open buffet with a kind of weak-looking guy talking to his girlfriend. They both got each other a copy of the book Eat, Pray, Love. And then what happens after that? I think I'm gonna have to change the music. I'm getting a little sick of what's his face? Kid A whining and over shit. I put some happy music on. Alright, it's not the best music, but it's better than dissonant wailing of depression, which is not my vibe right now. Not when I'm around these totally awesome dudes in the chat doing my artwork. Alright, so Victorian says, him Eat, Pray, Love. That's my favorite book ever heard. What was your favorite part? Him love, la la la. So, have you written your story out into a full script, or what's the status of your story? Speaking of script and stories and what have you, I'm still haggling with the director over his script. He's come up with some new ideas. He's got a writer that is, basically the guy's a writer, so he takes the filmmaker's ideas and kind of works the craft, of the writing, right? So, strangely, the director doesn't get along well with the writer. The writer's kind of a douchebag, but anyway. But whatever. So the thing's happening and talk. And I don't know. I have some. I've got some problems with the direction of the film myself, not because I'll just say what it is. So like, the director had like an original idea, and now he's like deviating from that idea, and adding things that are not believable, So I'm not mean about it, but I don't bullshit stuff either, So like, if people share an idea with me, I'll kind of torture the data. I'll be like, okay, so why does this happen? How do you show that? How are you going to set that up? Where is the drama? Where is the motivation? What are you trying to say with this piece? You know what I mean? I get under the hood, and really get into what's going on. And I actually came up with a really good sort of solution to one of his problems. I guess I'm just gonna say on this show, I don't think it's gonna change anything if anybody knows. So there's stories about, it's based on a true story of a young guy. I don't know how old he was, 18, 19. And the true story is that this kid murdered an elderly couple, like an anonymous elderly couple. He just like wanted to know what it felt like to kill, and he got off on it. And he's a psycho, it's what it is. And so this movie is loosely based on that. Anyway, there's a part in the story where there's a father figure, the actual father of the kid, who is trying to help him. And like, he goes to the girlfriend about like, what's going on with my son? Can you help me help him? Like, I can't reach him. He won't listen to me. Or something, something, something. And the girlfriend at some point realizes like, holy shit, my boyfriend is a murderer, and now I'm entrapped in this situation, and she's scared, and she's even scared for her own life. So she tries to reach out to the dad, to tell him about his son killing someone, whatever. And the director's concept is that the son is going to kill the father. And I'm like, well, that only makes sense if the father abused him all his life. Like if the father's an asshole and he beat the kid up, abused him, assaulted him, whatever, like all that shit. In that case, he would kill his dad. But he's not. If you make him kill his dad just because you think it's dramatic or something, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like you're not. He's sort of obsessed with this idea, and I'm like, you're not. You're out of touch with what you're trying to do here. Like you're not. It's just so frustrating to try to get through to him on this topic. And he's like, oh no, the father figure, something, something. And I'm like, look, if you do that, you're making the murderer a hero. Like, I'm freeing myself from the father archetype, like that's not what the fucking story is about. You're deviating from the original concept here. You don't want to romanticize a serial killer, you know. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right, something, something, blah, blah, blah. And then I came up with this idea. I said, okay, so how about this? It's not his real father, it's like a foster home. And so the guy is a good guy, and he means well, the father guy, the foster father. But since he's not the real father, you could conceivably have the kid kill him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's in a sense like he's in the way, and that just makes sense, Whereas like to actually kill your real father is pretty just. You can't just do that out of no fucking reason for dramatic effect. To me, that's bullshit. That's like amateur hour. That's amateur hour. Okay. So, and here we are back to fucking commercials again. Damn it. Ugh. Fucking kill YouTube. Now I'm the murderer. In the news today, artist Donald Kent on a freak episode killed YouTube because all the commercials that they have. Here, with the story, Joe Rogan. Sorry. But am I right or am I right? Commercials suck. So anyway, we're jumping all over the place. We're talking about archons. We're talking about this, that, and the other thing. Let's see. We got some kind of Victorian continues with his story. He says that a priest interjects. That was also my favorite book, aside from the Bible. We must all pray for our brothers' sins. A fat man pushes everyone aside to get to the buffet and says, "Eat." Davy Lewis is here. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm going back. I don't understand what you mean by that. But welcome to the show. I don't know. Nice to have new people here. Always good to have new people on the show. Victorian. So I wouldn't write out the entire story in the chat. That's not what I would do. But like, the thing to do is to write out the outline of the story. This is the way to go. Is to like. It's kind of like building a house. You don't start, by laying out bricks. You don't do that. You have to design the whole house, get the beginning, middle, and end squared off, write an outline. And you just, however many acts there are, you're like, okay, in the beginning, well, a lot of times you start with the end. What is it that you're trying to say with your story? This one thing happens. Like I always tell you guys that, like, Militia Man is about the transformation of a kind of normie Captain America, Superman, school Boy Scout type superhero into a hardcore far right kind of fascist angel of death who destroys all the evil in the world that is killing Western civilization, because no one has the fucking balls to do it. Let's talk about it. Let's complain about it. Let's make some laws. Let's write some songs. Let's draw a graphic novel. No, let's never really do any fucking thing. Oh, well, because they'll throw you in jail. Okay, so go ahead, make a graphic novel instead. I got it. So that's the story. That is the fucking story. Like, what am I saying? That's what I'm saying. Because we were this guy, and we've become this guy, you see. Through what? Through hella. Like, so many fucking transitions and problems and, dramas and holy heaven. Like, so many crises that we've lived through. And we know the truth of things, So, make it clear what it is that you want to say. This is the thing I'm telling the film director is like, what are you trying to say with your film? What is it you want to say? And he's still kind of wishy-washy about that. Anyway, once you get that squared down, then you start, you create characters, and the characters symbolize different ideas. They're like the embodiment of ideas. So, Noahide, the demon, is the embodiment of Noahide law. Come to rule the world through the chamber here, or whatever. Led by the cabal of so-called Freemasons here. Who are all fucking gay, basically, because they've taken their clothes off for this event. That I don't want to go explicitly into that world, but like, there's a thing there. There's a thing there. There's a connection between Satanism and homosexuality for sure. Not a topic I'm going to go into, but like, here is where we are right now in our culture, is we've got the MAGA-tards fighting us. You've got, MAGA fighting, MAGA force fighting Fash force. You see what I'm saying? And you've got, like, the Southerners, and you've got the pagans. You see what I mean? Like this superhero symbolizes, like, the pagan element within our culture. I always feel like the South should have its own character, because I just have, like, a certain love for the South, and I think that they, in many ways, are like the true Americans, just as far as, like, the rebel spirit that they have. the enemy, like the new MAGA force being filled with like Muslims and blacks and Latinos and Chinese. It's the new diversity equity hire. You see what I'm saying? So like all of these things, they're just like literary devices to tell the story, and each actor, these are actors, right? They have a different role, Sheepdog, he's like he's represents like the Boogaloo Boy law enforcement guy, and he gets murdered by this racist black woman because there's a relationship between like African Americans and the law. What is it, 1350? You know what I'm trying to say. So it's symbolic of that, about how lawless this culture is, and how because they're look at who's the guy that George Floyd. I forget the name of the police officer that's languishing in jail right now. He's only in jail because of like liberalism. He didn't kill the guy. The guy, George Floyd killed himself with the fentanyl overdose. But symbolically, we have to put the white cop in jail. So that is, you see what I'm saying? He represents that white cop that's in jail. Only in my story, he gets killed. So I think that there's a lot of writers that write because they enjoy writing. They enjoy characters. They enjoy dialogue. There's something fun about the playfulness of, boy meets girl or whatever. And that's fine. That's its own thing, but that's not me. You know what I'm saying? I'm more political, more philosophical. I operate on a different level. And I've known people that write in that way or have that kind of personality or something. That's fine. It's totally fine. It's just I'm the wrong guy to ask advice for, if like that's what your goal is. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm doing really is just trying to urge you to isolate what it is you want to say, you know, and then outline it like you're building a house. You know what I mean? Like almost like a shopping list of like I need this, that, and the other thing, and then start building it out. You know what I mean by building it out? So if I've got chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10, 1 to 10, and each chapter this thing has to happen in order for me to come to the conclusion of what it is I want to say, you know. That's how you write. That's what writing is, in my view. So that's my advice. I'm gonna stop preaching. I get pretty passionate about this stuff. And I hope you're not taking it the wrong way. I'm not trying to discourage anyone. Okay, Murdered by Lizzo. You got that right. Tox is back. Bad morning. Oh dear. Derek Chauvin, thank you. This Hippocratic Oath is my guy for like when I need names. You're right on point always, and I appreciate that very much. I appreciate that a lot. I'm definitely gonna have to give you a raise or something. Anyway, so yeah, yeah. Those are the things to know. And the fucking commercials are on. I can't escape these fucking commercials. I'm gonna have to put on some jazz or some shit that doesn't do this because I can't stop every 10 seconds for this fuckery. I get so pissed off at that stuff. And it's already 10:30. Let me do a quick read of the chat so I know what's going on. I got like new people coming in, and I usually like to show them my other art, and I'm missing that opportunity. Hold on, give me a sec. Revealing ring that shows a dinner plate and fork and knife. Tell you what, Victorian, just email it to me. You know what I mean? Because it seems like you got a lot on your mind, and I don't know that the chat room is like the time or place for that. So just email me the ideas, and we'll do a back and forth. You know, and we can really get into it. Murdered by Lizzo. I read that. Uh, Davy Lewis says, have dinner at lunch or something like this for dinner, and we are going out to the store to eat some food, drinks for the next few hours, but I don't know. I have to get my hair. I have no idea what's going on in the what's happening here. Somebody can translate that for me. Anyway, moving on. Tox says one. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. Tox. Well, say a prayer for her. Can't move her hand. Oh God, I hope she's okay. Friend of mine just had to go in and have his appendix taken out today. That just happened out of nowhere. Fun times. Have a great day. Go to bed early. Goodbye. Okay, Victorian. Nullis is here. Oh my God, Nullis, my brother. Hey, bro, are you back in the States? Are you with us again? Holy cow, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, Nullis is in the house. This is a big deal. Nullis, did I ever show you my book? Do you know about my book? Um, the last page of the book. Hold on a second. Find it here. The very last page has a little quote from a guy named Nullis Abnormocracy, and it says, "We will win." Because you always used to say that, and I love it. I love the spirit of that, and I wanted everyone to, it's just the quote of the end of the book. So I don't know if you ever knew that. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that, because you are like a brother to me in the best way. Like I can't. You and I have such a history. So quick little note. I'm gonna be going down memory lane here with Nullis for a little bit, and I'll go through the book while we chat. So I was just on Lord Wolfshield's music show like 2 3 days ago, and we're doing. It's a kind of a he doesn't like to use the term white art collective. That's his opinion, his business. But he's doing his thing to try to carry that on. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to be having a regular music show, and I basically sent him the video that you put together with our song. So the man who knew too much was the frog who knew too much, and I'm speaking over like a commercial on YouTube, and I'm about ready to lose my mind. So let me turn off that shit, and then I'm gonna come right back and get back into the biz here. Hold on. Nothing like talking over a commercial, especially about important things. So, I was like, okay, this is a song that Nullis wrote the lyrics, and I put it to music, and then and it was going way back to the beginning of my beginning in White Art Collective. I just met you and Jeff and Hyrith and the whole thing. And then was talking about being like the Ed McMahon on your poetry show. Dude, we've had so many laughs, man. We have had so many laughs, and we've accomplished great things. Of course, Imperium Art, we talked about all that stuff. Putting your song to that video was brilliant, though, brother. That was a brilliant move. Like that, it's amazing how well it moved together. All right, let me quickly. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just look on my music playlist, and you'll see a song called "The Frog That Knew Too Much." Go ahead, click on that, and maybe Nullis can tell us who made the video. I forgot who made the video. but it just works like perfectly. It's crazy. So moving on, let's read some chats and we'll get cooking here. Uh, let's see. Greetings, brothers. Awesome. The party can start. Nullis is here. Hails, hails. I'm all over the place. Okay. I was cartoon, comic book, three brothers, whatever powers. Oh, okay. Nullis, we will win. Jack Vance is back. Cool beans, man. Good to have you here, Jack. Found out today my wife is having our fourth child. Praise the Lord and hail victory. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, let's raise a glass to Jack Vance and his wife and his beautiful family. God bless you, brother. Wow, that's phenomenal. So I'm just kind of chatting with you guys. I'm going to take a break from drawing, look at my book here. We were talking about Spencer Quinn. These are illustrations I did for one of his recent books. I did illustration for this book by Spencer Quinn, The No College Club. Nullis can tell you that we've interviewed him on Imperium Art, and we've done book reviews of Charity's Blade and Solzhenitsyn. I mean, Nullis is way smarter than me, so like those guys can really have a good conversation about that. But anyway, there's a little quick little quote here from the No College Club illustrations. Spencer Quinn says the enslavement of white people from the Barbary Coast to the Gulag is an underreported topic. In my novel, The No College Club, with Donald Kent illustrated, which Donald Kent illustrated beautifully, I focused on indentured servitude in colonial America, which in many respects was de facto slavery. Since black slavery has become central to the mainstream anti-white narrative, learning of white victimhood has become crucial to combating this narrative. Donald's art takes us back in time to this painful yet instructive period in our history. And this is, that's, have you ever seen a movie about white slaves, in early America? Of course, they're indentured servants, but that's just a fucking word, that's just like a word. These people were technically slaves. So, like, yeah, that's a big deal. Anyway, let me get back. Jack Vance, congratulations. I have to get the book. This book is on my website. If you just go to the homepage of this YouTube channel, there's the Donald Kent. It's kent-art.weebly, blah, blah, blah. You can click that. It'll go straight to this. That's on Amazon. And yeah, I hope everybody can grab a copy. So let's read some more chats. Congratulations, blessings to your family. It's a fantastic song. So one thing about the song, getting back to Nullis's, it's our song. He wrote the lyrics. I wrote the music, performed it. So the thing about this song, it's funny because this picture of this guy could actually be the guy in the song. But anyway, okay, so what's unique about the song is it's both in major and minor. So there's, it starts off in major and it's kind of doo-doo-doo, a simple man in his home, and he's just kind of living his life, and he's reading the newspaper and he sees that his country is changing. And then I switch to minor chords, which are more serious and sad. And then it's like, he's beginning to realize, oh my God, the world is changing, and it's this tragedy, and I've got to do something about it. So then it switches back to major, and then he's like, okay, he made up my mind, I'm gonna make a statement. And, and it kind of goes back and forth, major, minor, which is extremely rare in music. Like, you're very, very rarely gonna find a song that's in both major and minor. Excuse me, anyway, so let's move on here. What else have we got? Nullis says, I was the Ed McMahon on your show, Imperium Art. Okay. So we had such a great chemistry. I think for that time, for that golden age or whatever, I don't want to call it like it's so far ago, so long in the past, but we were really known as a team in a sense, which is kind of neat, I guess, there's certain people out there that are known to work together, like, I don't know, different groups, but that was a good thing. Nola says, I accidentally found the video and it was perfect. Bingo. Thank you from Jack Vance. He's overjoyed. Champagne. Clink, clink. Spencer is a great guy. Yeah, I just was on the phone with him like a couple nights ago, helping him with his new book. He's got this new book coming out that's crazy, amazing. It's part of the No College Club world. And since I was a school teacher, I have a lot of background in the way schools work and my personal experiences with liberals and people of color and stuff in that field, that area. So he had a pretty deep, not deep, a lot of involved questions about, in the story, this guy does this and that happens, and what would a teacher do, or what would the principal do, et cetera, et cetera. So it was quite awesome. So his new book is going to be amazing. Nola says that guy would be perfect for the song. Oh yeah, the guy in my image. Jack Vance says I have the Indo-European Folktales collection illustrated by Gramman. You guys ever have any interaction? I know him on Twitter and I love his art, and I've reached out to him, but I think he's very shy, and or maybe he doesn't want to be involved in like what I do, because I'm more explicitly pro-white in what I do. I don't know. Like, there's different people that have different reasonings, and what are you gonna do? So this piece here was written by Kai Moros, actually. And I would love to do comics with Kai Moros. I'm just dying to do that, but I'm going to have to clone myself or something, you know. So, yeah, this is some cool stuff here, some comic book art for you guys to enjoy while we chat a little bit. Kai is another legend. He just put out a new speech. He's got a Telegram, and he's not on there often. But there's another, I don't know if it's a new speech, but it's a recording of one of his speeches. I am going to have to wrap it up soon, to be honest with you. I got to get up early. But yeah, I need to reach out to him. We're pretty close friends, to be honest. Like, we've corresponded quite a lot by email. And I mean, to call Kai Moros a friend is just insane to me, because the dude's a fucking rock star, man. I mean, he's literally a legend. Imagine being friends with like Jonathan Bowden. That's like the same tier, The guy is a legend, man. It kind of shakes me up just to think about it, I love him to death. I just adore the man. He's amazing. So powerful. The things that he's done with his work, so important, so important. Anyway, there's more of my comic book stuff here. Let's see what's going on. Hippocratic Oath says Kai would be savage in a comic. Conan level hack and slash. Yeah, dude. I mean, like, okay, let's go back to that the piece that he had here. So, this piece here is, it's like it's like a British village, and there's a fucking Muslim slave market selling English girls. Meanwhile, the cops are just fucking standing around, monitoring things, while these savages are whatever, trying to buy that. You get the idea. The girl tries to escape. The cop stops her, and brings her back. It's pretty dark. And then these liberals are over here. They're saying like, oh, all this ranting about so-called grooming only perpetuates racism. Yeah, and like, it's like, this is the insanity that we're all very familiar with that. And then, it goes into the British Parliament. Those girls should shut their mouths for the good of diversity and all this bullshit. So, it's ugly. It's ugly stuff. But I mean, we live in an ugly world. The situation is very ugly. Hippocratic Oath says Jonathan Bowden on H.P. Lovecraft is the best explanation of his insanity. Whoa, that would be cool. That would be very, very cool to read. I'll have to check that out. Um, Now you guys are getting me on a Kai Moros kick. I'm gonna have to get back in there. His work could not be more relevant too. Like right now, shit is hitting the fan so hard. In Ireland, they're putting up posters in the streets saying things that are like, if if anyone is helping Muslims to move into these areas, we're watching you. We know who you are. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. You know what I'm saying? It's basically threatening, you know, other Irish people to make them not do what they're doing. And I'm like, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So, Nellis, do you remember Full Moon Ancestry? Remember him? This is a portrait I did of him for, I think, his book. I'm pretty sure he put a book out. He was a fun guy. He spoke some Hungarian as well. Lived in Europe. Victorian Traveler says, I like the old man in the Confederate Army hat. I wonder what happened to him. That's a good question. Gosh, I don't know. That is a good question. He was pretty deep into, pro-white content, Gosh, man, that is a good question. Where did he go? Guess we'll have to do an internet search. I'll have my FBI agent get on that. Use your high tech to look him up. Speaking of that, I just saw a great movie tonight called Black Bag, and it takes place in the British Intelligence Service. Kate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender, a couple others. Fantastic, like, spy thriller movie. Strongly recommend it. At first, I was like, ugh, this is going to be liberal, snarky shit. I'm like bracing myself for that. But it turned out pretty okay in terms of, like, it wasn't heavy on the woke bullshit, but was more about the actual story. Anyway, they featured a lot of technology in there. Pardon me. Excuse me. Tracking people down by satellite, facial recognition software. There's like AI that can read your lips from a satellite. So, like, if you're sitting in a park talking to somebody and a satellite zooms in to your face, and then it can read your lips and then, produce audio speaking what you're saying in real time, according to this movie, which I believe they have that, and I bet much, much, much more, like UFO technology. But anyway, that's a great film. Six Seat Pit Viper, yes. That is too real. Yeah, I wonder what happened. Okay, yeah. So this, that, and the other thing. Always like this piece. I think this is a pretty neat piece. It's all Dave Martell, the Viz Archives. This piece is space trucking, and it literally is like a trucker in space. And he's out in space so long that he loses his mind. So hence the kind of that kind of thing. But I think what I like about this piece is how I made it so, like, you might draw it like this in a normal, as if there were gravity, but it's space, so there is no gravity. So nothing really kind of makes sense in a way. And if you're out there long enough, maybe you lose your mind. But yeah. Remember 98. What happened in 98? Some kind of revolution, maybe? I'm wondering if they're going to restart the IRA, but turn them against the invaders. Boston Brick Red is here. Great work. Hey, Boston Brick Red, it's good to have you, man. I'm usually doing comics on my show, but I'm just having a hangout session with my buddies. When my old friends came by for a visit, so I'm showing my book. But like, this is some of the comic book work that I do. That, you know, if you subscribe to the show, most nights I'm back here, you know, doing the comic stuff. So tune in and check that out. Hippocratic Oath says, now I like the face space monster better than the Viper. Usually don't react to monsters, but yours are juicy. Well, golly gee, thank you. There's one of the stories is like the Blob. You remember the Blob, the old 1950s classic. So I wanted to do something in that looked like it was like a movie poster from the 1950s. I don't know. I think this is fun. It's like a little silly, it's like slightly silly, but also, I mean, just good classic illustration, I guess. I don't know. I think it's fun. I could be like exclusively like a fantasy illustrator though, like this kind of D&D style stuff. Probably a lot of money in that, I would imagine. This is like an H.P. Lovecraft monster that I created for Dave Martell. So I think if you know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, this monster would make sense. You know what's interesting here? I just found a really, really neat thing. This is a gem. Give me a second here. What the fuck is that page? You'll see in a second. Oh, okay. So look at Noahide, the monster Noahide from my comic book. Notice how he's got like two heads. You know how there's like a goat head on top of a cow head, like that. Well, look closely at this guy. You can see that once again there's that goat head in the middle on this fucked up face here, and then I've got all these other things. But that, I think, is probably the original idea for this. So you heard it here first on Donald Kent Art. You guys are Donald Kent Art historians now. How do you like them apples? What I actually really like about it is actually the kid. You know, how he's like, he gets like hypnotized by this creature and he's walking towards it. But like look at the shadow of him in the water, the movement of the water, and then the scale of him compared to the monster in the cave. And I always try to add little interesting things, like kind of like the background like that and stuff. There's just a lot here. There's a lot here to consume visually. All right, well, guys, I think I'm a little bit tired here. I gotta hit the sack. Jack, Daddy gotta work tomorrow. So let's do a quick review here. Hippocratic Oath says no. Oh, I read that already. Nulla says, do you have the St. George piece in the book? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look. What do we have? What do we know? St. George. Well, golly gee, look at that fella right there. So maybe, Nullis, you can say in the chat, like we did a multimedia piece together with one of his poems, and he read it beautifully. But was it Amalek who put together the audio? I think it was Amalek. That was another fantastic collaboration. Dude, like we could be doing more of that, to be honest. We should probably try to hook up with Amalek or something. I'm really, really, really focused on the comics, but there was something there, man. There really was something there, some powerful stuff. I think it's a conversation we should probably have, yeah. I'm like totally running out of energy, like quickly here. Gotta go to bed. Good night, everyone. Great stream, Donald. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. Whatever you say, nothing. Whatever you say nothing when you talk about, you know what. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. You got a point. All right, gang. Once again, thanks for coming. Imperium Calling, The Art and Poetry of Donald Kent. You can find that on Amazon. You can also find it at my website, kent-art.weebly.com. It's at the homepage of this YouTube. God bless you all. Love you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. I stream almost every night, and so we'll see you. We'll see you. Hit the notification button. That's the thing to do. But 9 o'clock Eastern is my standard time for these shows. All right? Nullis, hope you can make it back, buddy, and we'll do some catching up. All right, God bless everybody. Thanks for coming.